that this is happening. That this has never happened to me yet, but hey, you know what? This is good experience. Co-host comes in is running late because of traffic. Again, if you're just tuning in, so it's just gonna be me for a little bit. My co-host should be here soon. But anyway, let's keep talking. So the Mets and the Kansas City Royals, as I was saying, those teams, one of the highest rated World Series in like the last decade, right? So it's good for baseball because I know there's a lot of Cubs fans and there's a lot of Indians fans, and they're really hyped to possibly end their streak. And unfortunately, for one of those teams, they're going to go home empty. And last year, unfortunately, it was the Mets. And it's been 30 years since the Mets have won a World Series. My goal, of course, is to see the Mets win a World Series. But, you know, and believe me, I was crushed, right? I was absolutely crushed when the Mets did not win the World Series last year. And I still think it was sort of a failure of a year. But I just think that it's good for baseball overall that the Chicago Cubs and the Cleveland Indians are the two teams. And I know me and Doug discussed on it last week, and I'm thrilled. You know, I think baseball is growing. Believe it or not, you know, they always talk about baseball being dead, and there's one thing you can't deny, that baseball is not as, I wouldn't say vibrant, I would just say not as popular as it used to be. I mean, that's an undeniable fact. And, you know, of course, you know, listen, baseball, I love baseball, right? It's my favorite sport. It's the only sport I watch. But you have to be able to admit the facts. And unfortunately, baseball is not as popular as it used to be. However, it's still really popular. And it's not like I don't think baseball is going to like die off next generation or something. I mean, we're technically the next generation right now. Me. And I see kids on TV at the games all the times. If those kids are like me and those kids are like us, they're going to grow up loving baseball. And I'm just saying that the point of this is, I know I got sidetracked, but the whole point of this is that the Mets, not the Mets. What am I talking about? I'm obsessed with the Mets. We're going to be talking about the Mets all day. The point is that this World Series is going to be awesome. And listen, believe me, when I say this, I won't even be watching the World Series most likely because, again, like I explained last week, I just am really upset about the Mets not being there. And I really thought they were going to be there. And maybe I'm delusional for that, but I thought they were going to be there. You know what? I might tune in for a bit. And listen, I encourage you to watch the World Series, no matter what team is in it, right? Especially this one. This one is history. You know what? I'll definitely tune in for like the last few games, right? But I'm not sitting here at the edge of my seat going, oh, World Series. I'll tell you this, though. The people in Chicago and the people in Cleveland are probably going insane. I mean, Wrigley was crazy. I mean, I was on Twitter the other day, and guess what? Man, like the reporters, when the Cubs beat the Dodgers, right? Bunch of beat reporters like Anthony DiComo and Adam Rubin and all these guys, Buster Only, right? All these beat reporters, they were sitting there and they were tweeting out, people won't leave the Wrigley Field. Sorry, I almost called it Cubs Field. They just wouldn't leave Wrigley Field. And I just heard that the celebration was going on all night. I hear the celebration just happens all over the place. And listen, that's great, right? I mean, listen, I'm not the biggest fan of the Cubs. I mean, really, I don't think they've earned anything yet. I think now they've earned something, right? They won the pennant. Last year, and leading up to this year, they didn't win a freaking thing. They didn't even win the pennant. And they were getting talked about more than the Mets, which is why it pissed me off, because the Mets won the pennant. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm wearing a replica National League Championship, Mets versus Cubs ring, right? I got this as a memento because 2015 is the best season I ever watched. Better than 2006, 7, and 8, right? You want to know why 2015 was special to me? It was just because the pitching was magical. The team was magical, and I wanted to buy a memento for my birthday, and I did. And I know I've told the show I have this ring, but that's just me showing, listen, the Mets swept the Cubs that series. I wear this ring with pride, okay? So I'll just say this, you know, even though I don't root for the Cubs, it's good for them to be there. I'm rooting for the Cleveland Indians to win the World Series, right? I hope they win it. And we'll see. We're going to see what happens. This is just good for baseball, though. Like I've been saying, this is good for baseball. I don't even know. Like, we just go off way off track, right? Oh, I remember what I was talking. You see, this is what happens when I do the show alone, right? When my co-host, he's still on his way. He'll come in here any minute now. He'll sit down. I'll say it's okay. He'll sit down, I'll turn his mic on. This stuff happens, right? This is live radio. This is what happens. Anyway, so we're talking about the beat reporters not leaving. It's crazy. And then when you go over to Cleveland, I mean, you should have seen it in the NLCS. Now, this is stuff I do see because, of course, baseball is my love, right? I keep up on Twitter, even though I can't stand to watch it when the Mets are out of it because it's just so heartbreaking. You should have seen the place when LeBron James went to... Do they call it? What do they call it? Cleveland Stadium? Is it called Progressive Field? I think it's called Progressive Field. Right, Imaginary Doug? You're right. Yeah, no, I know it's Progressive Field. But when you would see when he would come out, I think Drake came out, but I don't know. Yeah, Drake came out through a pitch. It was wild. The videos were wild. And it was awesome to watch. And you know what? And we spoke about this a little last week. The NFL... going a little bit, listen, I don't watch the NFL. I've never liked football. I've never had a keen interest. But, listen, Alex Rodriguez said it. Baseball has an opportunity here to capture some people who wouldn't usually watch because of the notorious drought of the Cubs and the Indians. The Indians, of course, it's a drought. They haven't won the World Series since 1948. But the Cubs, it's just an unprecedented drought of 108 years. I mean, when you think about it, those Cubs fans right now, right? Cubs fans my age. I'm a college kid, right? Cubs fan my age. I mean, I'm sure their parents and their grandparents and maybe even their great-grandparents and maybe even their great-great-great-grandparents have not seen the Cubs win the World Series. I don't know how far back, obviously how people live, but this is a big deal. This is like, you always hear about the Red Sox breaking their curse. They had a big curse, right? I don't know how long that curse went on. I definitely think the Cubs curse is longer than that curse. And it was just crazy when the Red Sox broke that curse, right? I mean, I don't really remember it. It was a long time ago. I was born in 1996, so it was a long time ago. I could barely remember that time. But I will say, if the Cubs or the Indians win, it's going to be good for baseball. But this matchup in the World Series is good for baseball and could get baseball some outside exposure. Because I'll tell you this, again, I don't watch football, but the outside consensus are people getting a little sick of it this year, or maybe the product isn't good in the field. I listen to radio stations, right? I listen to WFAN, sports radio in New York. I mean, that's part of the reason why I love radio is I love the conversation, right? I love the intellectual sports discussion. And I listen, and people just call up, and I don't usually listen that much this time of year because it's football. I don't like football. But, when I do, I peep in, I listen. Sometimes they're talking about the Mets, so I'll turn it on. And I'll hear some occasional football caller, and they'll just go, man, the product on the field is not doing it for me. Now, bear in mind, we live in New York. We have the Jets. We have the Giants. As far as I know, it just hasn't been a good year for them. So maybe, you know what? Maybe some people shift on that TV. Because I know a lot of people are disappointed in their football teams. And like I said, when the Jets and Giants weren't doing so hot last year, when the Mets were going to go to the World Series, I'm like, hey, it's never too late to be a bandwagoner, right? It's never too late to get on the train and do this. So, listen, it's just good for baseball. I don't even know. Does the World Series start today, imaginary co-host? I have no idea if the World... That's how... You see, like, for me, baseball... I really am still, my heart is like bleeding with this Mets thing because, and we're gonna talk about it when my co-host gets out of traffic. We're gonna talk about, and if he doesn't, I'll just talk about it. I don't think the Mets are getting to the World Series next year. I just don't think it's happening. I mean, we're gonna get into that later, but I definitely want to preview that part of the show. I don't think they're getting, and there's more evidence. Okay, because there's reports about Cespedes which we're gonna cover. So, that's just real, okay? And, listen, more baseball news. I'm trying to, listen, the general baseball news has been around this Cleveland Indians and Cubs thing. I don't think there's a story I read. Listen, I always look up the stories, right? What am I going to cover today on the show? What's trending around baseball? Dude, the only thing that's trending is the Cubs and Indians right now, respectively so, because they're droughts. And let me tell you this, what's his name? Charlie Sheen. Yeah, what the heck am I talking about? Charlie Sheen, He played this Cleveland Indian guy. I never saw the movie. I really should. I forget the freaking movie. It's with the kid who throws for the Cubs. Whatever. It's an iconic movie. You probably know what I'm talking about. The name escapes me, right? He wants to throw the first pitch out for the Cleveland Indians, but the Indians declined his request. They're going to go throw some Indian legends, some people from the Indians that have done well for their franchise for the first pitch. Hey, listen, that's fine. I don't got any beef with that, right? I mean, listen, it's your franchise. You want to get some of your best players or players from your history, legends of the Indians to come and throw a first pitch for the World Series. That's what I understand. Listen, like the Mets have legends of their own, If there was some iconic baseball movie, I'd still rather have an actual player who contributed to the franchise throwing the first pitch. It's not really a controversy. It's just something that definitely came up. And I remember reading it. Like, the Indians declining Charlie Sheen's request to throw out the first pitch because he was, like, in a movie with the kid. I mean, it's interesting. The reason why it's so interesting is that the movie is about, like, the guy, like, this little kid who throws for the Cubs. And they faced the Indians in the World Series or something. So it's like last year we had this whole Back to the Future thing with the predictions, and now this year we have the whole what is that? The whole the Indians thing. So we had the Back to the Future thing with the Cubs. Now the Cubs are still involved with this movie business, but in this other movie. And you want to know why there's so many movies, right? Because the Cubs are in such a drought. I mean, that's just what it is. The Cubs are just in this giant drought. And listen, they're on a quest to end it. Do I think they'll end it? Like, off my gut feeling? I really don't know, man. They're a good team. But I hope they don't. I hope the curse goes on. All right? And it's because of what I stated last year. And, of course, I've stated on the show. The Cubs fans need to take a seat. They need to calm down, all right? I would hope that the Cubs, those Cubs fans are arrogant, they're cocky. I mean, they should be, right? But they're just really, MLB, the media, Fox Sports, all of them, they just get down on your knees, I mean, they just nonstop Indians. I'm sorry, not Indians. Non-stop Cubs, non-stop. You can't escape it. And I get it; they're a good team, but it's unfair. You're treating them like World Series champions. Okay, I mean, they do a billion Cubs you turn on MLB Network, there'll be like Cubs segments. I mean, listen, I don't have MLB Network, right? I subscribe to their YouTube channel, and they'll come up my feed. And what happens? It's just all Cubs. How's his swing? And it's good, right? Cover a bunch of teams, but geez. I mean, this was like from opening day, people proclaimed Cubs year, right? I mean, there were people just saying Cubs all the way. And I get it, they were a good team, and obviously they are a good team, but you know what? They haven't achieved anything, okay? 108 years, they're cursed for a reason, all right? They're cursed for a reason, all right? Like it or not, cursed for a reason. That's my diagnosis on the Chicago Cubs. And I covered it. Listen, when the Mets were facing the Cubs in the NLCS, I made, as for fun, right? For fun, like nothing serious. But I actually studied the curse of the Cubs, right? I read all this stuff about the curse of the Cubs because I was really hating the Cubs at the time. I didn't want the Cubs to stand in our way to get to the World Series. So I was really hating on the Cubs, and now I'm not. So, hey, I got my co-host Doug finally walking in. How was the traffic, No,
it's awful.
It's awful. I'm going to turn your mic on once you adjust it. And listen, don't worry, this is live radio, so this stuff happens, right? Just like on live TV. Nothing could be planned. You're coming in, we got about 17 seconds in the first segment. I was talking about the Cubs and the Indians.
Oh, man. I'm going to have to catch up on that.
Yeah.
About it.
Lots of news, like I was talking about earlier, guys, and we're gonna go to commercial break in about 1 second. Right now, stay tuned.
Hi there, this is the original Lee Gunboats on the Eclectic Radio Theater. Thursday nights from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Tune in to hear everything from classical to jazz to rock and everything in between. Music from the 20s to the 2000s, focusing on a different theme every week. Except no substitutes. This is the original Lee Gunboats on the Eclectic Radio Theater. It's unlike anything you've ever heard before. Thursdays from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern, right here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.
You're listening to Ace at the Plate on WCWPSports.org.
So we're back. I'm sorry about that with the commercials. Some of them were playing and some of them weren't. So that's really strange. Like some of them just wouldn't play. So I had to skip over them. So I'm definitely not going to have those in the next one. Welcome back, Doug. You had a little bit of traffic, was it?
Oh, yeah, it was pretty painful coming over. I don't even know what the hell happened. But you know what? Like life, we have these traffic, these problems, and we got these delays and waits until we finally get there. Like our so-called Indians and Cub fans, how they've had to wait an eternity.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've mentioned that it's been 71 years since the Cubs were last in a World Series. I'm pretty sure for the Indians it was probably in the 90s, but even before then, when you have...
They haven't won since 48,
Not
right?
since 48, 1948 and 1908. So to give you perspective, in 1908, the United States was just accepting Arizona as a republic, I'm pretty sure. We only had 46 states at that time. The Ottoman Empire still existed. So, yeah, I would have to say it's been quite a long time. There's only 5 people alive, actually, today in the United States that were alive when the Cubs last won.
That is so interesting.
Or would actually have a cognizant thought when the Cubs last won.
Now, do you have the Cubs winning this or no? I have the Indians winning it.
Well, I
Believe
think.
it or not.
Well, no, I would have to have the Cubs winning it. I mean, the composition together of what the Indians team is, they had the second best ERA in the whole entire league leading into this postseason, the second best WAR considering their offensive prowess. So you can have a case picked out for them, but it's pretty difficult without another ace in their rotation like Carlos Carrasco. Because when you look up the Cubs lineup and their rotation, top to bottom, it's a thing of beauty. It's nothing we've seen before. Like, it's amazing that we get to see the best team in baseball throughout the whole entire year and still maintain it to the World Series. Because when we go back to when the legendary Mariners team went, they were a 116-win team, and yet still no World Series. So for this, it's like a capstone for their whole entire season. When it comes to the team makeups, I mean, think about this. Have you heard about Kyle Schwarber?
Yeah, he's
Remember Kyle
coming
Schwarber?
back.
He has the most home runs in postseason history for the Cubs, and he was a rookie last year. 5 home runs he has in the postseason.
Looks like he's on.
So this guy, oh god, the kid is jacked. He looks like a juiced up mule that you're ready for slaughter, like a cattle.
They're
man.
gonna test anyone. They gotta test that guy. That guy looks like he's on roids.
Yeah, I mean of anyone. But this kid, so he tore his ACL and his MCL at the beginning of the season. And now they're thinking about bringing him back because it's important because since you're playing against American League teams and since the American League team won the AL All-Star game, the All-Star game, which is ridiculous that decides who gets the home field advantage. When you have the Cubs who won so many games, but I digress. Kyle Schwarber can be used as a DH, where you can keep Wilson Contreras at catcher. And what do? You bump out Jason Hayward, the biggest albatross contract that we've seen in baseball this year.
They benched him, right?
No, they haven't benched him. That's the sad part, that they keep wheeling and pushing him out there.
I thought I read that they benched him.
I mean, one game, yes, they did bench him, but in favor.
About.
But it was in large part, he's played the majority of the postseason. And with this is a guy who hits about 214, I think, on the season. He has a 300 slugging percentage.
Bust.
This guy, I mean, he's great in the outfield, don't get me wrong, but when you're looking at this team for the Cubs, you need the bats going right now.
Now, you know what? That brings me to a really good point and saying that if Hayward, how much was his deal?
I think it was like 100. Hold on, let me get in. It was like $100 million or something.
8 years, right?
Jason Hayward deal. Like it was preposterous. Absolutely.
If you're paying that much for Hayward,
$184 million over 8 years.
If you're paying that much for Hayward, imagine what Cespedes is going to get.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Cespedes, he's going to be. This averages out to about, I think, like $23 million per year with a $20 million signing bonus. So Cespedes could be looking at somewhere in the range of $27 million. But staying with the Cubs, I mean, this guy, you got to get him out of the lineup. So when you look at this Cubs lineup and what it's going to bring to the table, I mean, it's phenomenal. When you look around that whole entire time, Wilson Contreras as your catcher. First base, you got Rizzo. Second base, you got some combination of Ben Zobrist or Javier Baez. And then you've got shortstop, it's going to be Addison Russell. And then you've got over at third base, you've got Chris Bryant, the reigning NL Rookie of the Year, who is probably going to win the NL MVP. And that doesn't even include the rest of the outfield that's going on out there with Dexter Fowler, who has been prodigious as hell. I mean, he was going to go to the Orioles, but look at this guy over here. And then when you get together with that, with Schwarbombs going out there, that lineup can tear anyone apart. But the one thing the Indians have going for them is that these are deceptive pitchers. Corey Kluber is obviously a perennial AL Cy Young winner. Yep. But we have guys like Josh Tomlin. Where'd he come from? Nobody knows. This is a guy that has so much spin and dip to his ball that for bats that are so heavy and lofty and with their batting angles that they look for home runs to put it up in the air, for this Cubs team, it could pose problems. And this could be the time where these bats go silent because not every bat's been making noise in that lineup. So it's a toss-up at this point. I kind of want the Indians to win. Cubs, I mean, no matter what, we're going to see a phenomenal series amongst these two. And you know what's the best part about this series? What? Is that it's a screw you to the Boston Red Sox. I mean, it's a huge F you. Sticking the freaking bird right up in their face. Yep. I mean, you've got Theo Epstein, who was the guy who brought back the Red Sox and made them break their curse. Then he leaves, and within 5 years, he turns around this franchise that was losing 100 games per year to winning 100 games per year. And he's locked up all these players. We're talking about Rizzo for the next 4 years. We're talking about all these names I mentioned. Lester, Russell, Bryant, Rizzo. All these teams, Contreras, Schwarber, for the next 4 to 6 years. So we're going to be seeing these guys in the NLCS every year against the Mets. Because I'm telling you, the Mets are going to be back there. But what's even more shocking, another FU, is that the Cleveland Indians, their manager, Terry Francona, was the Red Sox manager. So everything right now, and you've got Lester that's in there. So it's all these pieces and components.
It's like leftover Red Sox pieces.
It is. Oh, yeah, and Red Sox, these fans are looking at this like, oh, my God, if only we had these two guys to help control us, would we only be in the same position? But you know what? Screw you, Boston. You ain't getting in like these guys.
Listen, I don't even have hate for Boston. Here's the reason. I have the Indians winning because, one, I like Kluber, and I like not Franco, that other pitcher you mentioned.
Wait, Tomlin or there's Bauer also. Bauer's fantastic.
I like their pitching, believe it or not. Plus, you know what else? I just feel like the Cubs are going to go cold again. Yeah. And this is just my prediction, okay? This is not based on anything. This is just my gut feeling. Remember when the Cubs were, like, on the verge of losing that series to the Dodgers, man?
Yeah.
They got flaws, and their flaw is if they're cold, it's over. If their bats are cold, it is done. If they're on, they'll probably win it. But if they're definitely cold, then it's over. And listen, they're cursed for a reason, boys. So I don't think they'll win the World Series, and I'm hoping they don't. I hope it's Cleveland year. Let's just make that town Cleveland wins everything except for football, and because I just heard that they are terrible at football. So.
The Bears?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, the Browns are by far even worse. I mean, the Browns are 0-7. They are the worst franchise I've ever seen in my life.
There was a story,
across all sports.
There was a story that the Browns actually congratulated the Indians about going to the World Series, and they're just like, don't talk to us because like they're so bad.
Oh yeah, I mean, but this is like the year. This is the year when the world ends because like look at this. We've got Hillary and Trump running for president right now. You've got the Cleveland Cavaliers who won the championship, and you've got the Indians and Cubs in the World Series.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, get your books out, start partying because 2016 is the last year that we're going to be here.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. It's great for baseball that this is happening, like I was mentioning in the first half. And, that's really it on the general baseball news. Right now, everyone's hyped about the World Series, and rightfully so.
Well, I mean, there's that's been going on. I mean, another part of the World Series is you get to see these personalities come out from the post games, which is phenomenal because, I mean, how often we get to see, like, legends like, oh, my God, who are these legends that are out there right now? We've got A-Rod, Pete Rose, and Frank Thomas talking about hitting, like as if this is three guys that are one of the three best hitters of all time. Yep. They're still alive right now, sitting around talking the nuances of the game. And actually, you know what's surprising? I used to be a hater of A-Rod, but after seeing him these post-game talks, dude, He's brilliant. This guy, I mean, he might be a narcissist ass, but this guy, he knows the game.
Let me tell you about
he
A-Rod.
Loves the game.
Let me tell you about A-Rod. For sure, he's like that Yankee guy. He's definitely all right. I don't know. I never really had hatred toward him. I think he's a cheat, and he should not be in the Hall of Fame. Like, if that's my hatred, like, I hate that he cheated twice, and he's definitely not a Hall of Fame guy. But he has, let me tell you about A-Rod, a great broadcasting skill. You know, not like, he just projects his voice very well. He just has a nice voice for television and radio. And, of course, he's A-Rod. He knows about baseball. He's really knowledgeable, and that obviously helps him. So when I saw him on Fox, like last year, wow, I was blown away. He definitely has a future in broadcasting, just like Pete Rose is right now. And he's not doing baseball, obviously. He's banned. But he's doing all this Fox baseball stuff. He does a great job. And I think A-Rod, that's going to be his future boat if he doesn't play.
Oh, no, he could be a coach. Like, people in the clubhouse say how he's transformed himself. From the beginnings, from when he left the Mariners to the Rangers, all the way to the Yankees. It's really funny to see how he's actually transformed, because he used to be known as a clubhouse cancer, where this guy would just be completely demeaning to other players, and he's all about himself. But the most shocking part is that actually, as he's progressed on, people start saying that this is the guy, when he was in the minor leagues, that he'd be watching the ins and outs of each at-bat for these younger players.
Listen,
give them little tips and see the little tips that are being pitched off from the pitcher himself, and transform the older team into wins. They said that they won, actually, when he was down there for 2 weeks, that they won probably 5 more games than they should have, just because A-Rod was in that dugout.
He said he definitely has a future in baseball. It's going to be interesting. Not in the Hall of Fame, but he's got a future in baseball. And, other than that, bro, the Mets, there's actually news. There's actually a lot of news about the Mets. First of all, the scouts are just ripping on Tim Tebow. He has 2 hits and 20 at-bats. He hasn't played since Wednesday. I have quotes here, actually, from scouts. They go, hang on, I'm just reading it. Time is a factor with him, and he needs to develop his skill sets in the outfield. He needs to learn different angles, like how to pivot and how to react on the ball off the bat. I'm not impressed with his arm. His body is too straight, like standing up in the pocket and trying to throw a football. So that's what they're saying about Tebow in there. I don't think he'll make it to the majors ever, but maybe. Oh, living on a prayer, right? For Mr. Tebow.
I don't know, Tebow. He saved one fan with the touch of his hands. I mean, he's 29. I'm pretty sure Jesus was 30 when he did his first miracle. So once this guy Tebow hits 30, he's going to come up to the Mets and bring the miracle of a World Series back.
Here's to put it with the perspective. You know what? First of all, Cespedes is 31. And Tebow's 29.
Well, 30? No,
he's 31.
No, he's 31.
Just turned 31 a few days ago. Believe me, I know. All right, I love this guy. But Tebow, listen, I think there's actually some potential if he starts to hit. All right, because the Mets, what we know is that they care about defense to an extent, but we're talking about a franchise that played Wilmer Flores out of position for a year last year. So obviously they're about hitting. So, listen, as long as he hits, he'll find his way up here, but I don't think so.
No, not at all. Dear God, no. This guy is only an outfielder because every other position, he would just butcher it, the name of baseball.
He's just got to be a pitch hitter.
No, I mean, even if he's a pinch hitter, I guess he could be a nice clubhouse presence, kind of like Jeff Francoeur is for, a little bit. But this guy, seeing his swing is the most ugly swing I've ever seen.
He's not a baseball
player. It is
player.
so long that this guy can't, and he flicks his wrist over so that every single ball doesn't get enough carry, and it's just a ground out.
He hasn't played the game since 2005, so this is what you're getting. He's jacked, all right?
The guy's yoked. There's no doubt.
Dude, he looks like he's so ripped that he would have trouble running it out in the outfield.
Well, he's got plus speed, actually, is what the scouts are saying. But everything that he has, I guess it is the years off, but even then, you got to be honing this skill every year. I mean, I think he would personally do better by going back to the Jets right now. I mean, that abysmal atrocity of a team right now just makes me want to throw up every Sunday.
Well, the scouts are
I'd rather see
criticizing his
Tebow
arm.
back there.
They're criticizing his arm. I guess it was weak, Listen,
the guy.
But he hasn't played since Wednesday. I don't know why, but he'll be back. Believe me, because now it's like a story. Timbo. I look at a Mets blog and all these other blogs, famous blog. I don't know if you go on Mets blog, but all they talk about is Tebow down there. I mean, whenever it's not about Cespedes or the pitchers, it's about Tebow. So that's where I'm getting my updates on Tebow from, because there's Tebow Watch. And, listen, he's a story, I guess. $100,000 signing bonus.
I mean, that $100,000, I was like, wow. I thought they were doing him a favor. But, instead, they're actually paying him to be there. I'm like, holy crap. But even more so, like, I mean, there's other names. He's overshadowing these names like Cecchini, our young shortstop prospect, who the kid can put a barrel on on a ball so easily.
He actually had a big night in.
Yeah, he went 3 for 5 with
a
a solo home run, and he's been hitting .350 with a .423 on base percentage.
But you don't really hear that. You just hear about
no,
Tebow.
but you hear about Tebow because that's where all the shock value is. That's where the Google keywords be going through the algorithm, being like, oh, Tim Tebow, Mets, blah blah blah. Like, and there's also like there's so many other players down there that we should be looking at. I mean, I'm pretty sure Dom Smith's down there, right?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And like it's a shame that they get swept underneath the rug when you have got this guy. I mean, there's this new guy, Marcos Molina, who was a top pitching prospect until he had Tommy John surgery.
Yep.
And now he's back. He's throwing. He's looking pretty good. I mean, it looks like it'll be a nice piece for the bullpen next year. I mean, these are things that I would like to pay attention to. But obviously, when you have someone like a Tim Tebow around, and having his magical powers of Jesus in his hands to resurrect someone from the dead at the game. It's I guess that's what gets more of the news in the press. But
that's what gets the press. That's why I have it here reported. But listen, the press ain't good. All right, the scouts, they just like you said, the outfield running. He's fast, but he doesn't have good paths. He can't throw that well for some reason. I guess that was his NFL
Oh, because like he was throwing these lame ducks. I mean, he did win a freaking playoff game with the Denver Broncos. Not many people can say they've accomplished that in their lifetime. So, and also, I think he's been leaving midweek from the AFL games because he's a sports broadcaster for the SEC network of college football.
Yeah, well, that's something that he's done. But again, he's got he's struck out and he's.
He has a .50 or like 100 batting average right now.
It has
got 2
not
hits.
been looking good for this first stint. We'll see. Obviously, they're going to follow this guy like we've been talking about, like hotcakes. Also, Bartolo Colon sources are saying he's looking for a 2-year deal. Mets want to give him 1. I think they'll settle, right? You just think
settle for wait? You mean they'll give him 2 years?
No, I think the Mets will hold out, and then there'll be no market, and then they'll give him 1.
Well, I mean,
what he wants 2 years because he says he wants to retire when he beats Stan Marshall's record. That's what he said.
What's Stan Marshall? Oh, you mean the Dominican-born players?
I don't know if
totals?
I said that name right. I don't know if that's the guy. I may have butchered it, but
no,
there's a guy. There's a guy.
There's a guy.
I don't know how many wins off he is, but he wants.
It's 243 wins is the ceiling to break. I'm pretty sure he's at 239 or maybe like.
Listen, he wants 2 years.
No, 233 career wins. So he's 10 wins away.
He's looking for a 2-year deal. Mets want to give him 1, but here's my prediction, and here it is for everybody. It's going to be a 1-year deal with a team option.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense for everybody, right? Bartolo lives in New Jersey, if you didn't know. So it's a great commute. He loves the Mets, the pitchers. He's so useful for the pitchers, not only because he's durable, but he gives such good advice to everybody because, hey, he's got the guy, he's the most experienced in the biz. So he's got experience. He's a great guy. It seems like especially the Spanish players look up to him in the bullpen, always going up to him for advice and things like that. So I say you got to get it done. It'll get done. I'm not even worried about it. I mean, where is the market for the 43-year-old pitcher who wants the $44 million who wants the 2-year contract? I mean, I just think they'll settle on 1-year team option. And it will be on the cheap, team friendly. And listen, I think that's what Bartolo's up for. To be honest, he's had success here in New York. He's on the back end of his career. Why not? Just like with the Mets picking up Jose Reyes' offer. So things are moving this week in the Mets, and that was obviously another no-brainer.
With Bartolo?
No, I'm just saying the Mets also picked up Reyes' option.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. When you're doing the league minimum for a player that should be worth at least like $12 million to $15 million range, of course you want to be picking up Jose Reyes. But Bartolo, he's showing that his durability and his age is just not a fluke.
It's an asset.
It's also that his ERA was a 3.43 ERA, which in this day and age of pitching, for some reason this year, the ball was just traveling outside the parks. That is a phenomenal stat. But even more so, Bartolo Colon, he is a Gold Glove caliber player, and that's why we need him back.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about more stuff over the break. We got a lot more news. Hopefully the commercials don't screw up this time. So wish us luck right now.
Hi, this is Officer Brian Snyder from the IRS Department.
Really, Brian?
Who are you kidding?
The reason to this call is to inform you that the IRS has issued an arrest warrant against you.
No, it hasn't. This is a scam.
So call me back to get the detailed information about your case. My callback number is 352-464-60.
The IRS never calls a taxpayer. They always contact you with a certified letter.
It's very important we hear from you today.
It's very important that you know this phone call is a fake. Brian is after your money. Do not be afraid. Do not respond. Do not become a victim.
A museum is the best place to time travel. Make your next trip easier by joining the Gold Coast Library Museum Pass program. As a member, you can borrow a free admission pass for your family to local museums like the Cradle of Aviation Museum, the Long Island Children's Museum, and more. For more info, call 516-759-8300 or visit goldcoastlibrary.org. The Community Calendar is a public service from your friends at 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.
Yeah, I don't know what is going on. Some commercials are playing and some aren't, and that's just the way it is right now. Not even the liner. You know how it says you're watching Ace, you're listening to Ace at the Plate. That's not playing. Obviously, there's some technical issues, but we're live right now, so there's nothing. I'll contact the guy after.
And we're going to be pushing through. Don't worry, fans.
Yeah, don't worry about it. But bear with us here. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, so there is some news that the Mets are going to be moving in on Cespedes slowly. He has 3 days to decide to opt out after the World Series. So the Mets have a 3-day window. Well, they have until now. They could get stuff done now, but they're not, because they are going to wait for the market to quote-unquote develop, and they're going to go slowly. They want him back, but they are not. But as much as they're willing to do, they're most likely going to try and go to extend the contract and put more front-loaded money on the contract. Would that be enough? I don't know. Buster Olney, he works for, I think, ESPN, if I'm not mistaken. He says that he thinks the Mets are saying this to hold out from Cespedes because of other guys like Edwin Encarnacion, and I forget the other names that he listed, but he was one of them. All those outfielder guys, Mark Trumbo, he listed, other guys the Mets could be looking at. My opinion on this is the same as it's always been. If they're not going to sign him, they got to sign someone who could do it, who could have this energy in life, and I think they're going to have to sign him. I don't, like you said earlier, which has reminded me, you said you think the Mets are going to be back. I don't think they're going to be back. I think this is it. This is rebuilding mode part 2. And I know it sounds crazy, right? Because we have all these pitchers. But as long as the Wilpons own this team, they're just not going to add those pieces we need, and it's just going to go to waste. And those are my thoughts. What do you think about ownership right now? I mean, I know the offseason hasn't even started yet, but this is some stuff we've heard before about, we'll wait, we'll play out the market, we'll see how it goes. They don't sound really committed right now. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, they can't be they're looking into ideas right now, but no team really wants to be starting to make moves externally before the World Series. Because right now you're going to see tiny little bit movements where it's like denying options, designating guys for assignment. For instance, one move that you'll probably see before the World Series is that the Mets have denied John Niese's $10 million option for next year.
Yep.
So these are things that they're doing inside. So they're trying to clean a little bit of house, tidy it up so that they can find out where to put this new piece of furniture that they want to add to make the whole entire room complete. And that's where we come into the idea of, can this offense do it? And after seeing the Indians make it to the World Series this year, I see why not. I mean, they do have some perennially players that, such as a Francisco Lindor, their shortstop, or Jason Kipnis, that can change a whole entire team by themselves. But they also have other pieces that, like Mike Napoli, who everyone really wrote off because of his weaknesses in St. Louis. I mean, this is a guy who used to be a catcher, used to hit from prodigious power, but then he started to fall off. Then you've got a catcher himself in Carlos Santana, who they've shifted over to first base or to DH as well. And it's really interesting that we can see the parallels between there and the Mets. I mean, we do have some very strong pieces. I mean, we've got Jose Reyes, Arturo Cabrera, even Jay Bruce who will be coming back. So there are options there. I do agree that there is one component. As I mentioned before, my metaphor of the house is that we're missing that one piece that will tie together the whole entire room. And it's not a rug for everyone to walk over and be like, oh, that's nice to be there. We're talking about like that 70-inch TV plasma going up there right now. And when I see about when I'm talking about Yoenis Cespedes, it's an interesting option. I mean, I used to be in love with the guy, but then there was something this year, and it wasn't just like that he was injured and management screwed that up, but it really just seems like he's type of like an A-Rod guy, like you said before, is that, I don't know, he just seems very self-motivated, which in the right circumstances, it can be good. When things are going well, he definitely wants to be out there doing his best. But there was a period towards the end of the season going into the wild card game where it just seemed like he just was lackluster. Even the last game when he got thrown out of the game, he didn't want to be at the celebration afterwards. And I don't know. I mean, is it like, and we're talking about the monetary cost of him and talking about how the Wilpons are cheap. If we throw all this money at him, do the Mets just cave in? Like, do they have other options? What if he gets hurt? Like, it just seems like a limiting factor, especially with this stacked outfield. An option that I would like to personally see is grab someone that could play first base, such as Miguel Cabrera. They can trade with the Detroit Tigers. They have a nice, good rapport going together with them because they already traded for Yoenis and they traded Mike Fulmer. And I could see that they want to get another deal worked out because the Detroit Tigers Dave Dombrowski, their president, has stated that they want to get younger and that there are changes coming. Oh, no, it's Alavia is their GM, and then you've got Dombrowski, who is the
No, he's with Boston.
Yeah, he's the Boston one now, so here's the other one. So it's Alavila. But anyways, so they really want to get young, and they want to shed these contracts. There's also J.D. Martinez, who could be he's equal in power to Yoenis Cespedes. He has that amount of involvement in the lineup. So when we're looking at the trades, it's like apples and oranges. Yes, they're different, but they're still goddamn fruit. They're going to do the same thing nutritionally for you.
Now, here's the thing, though, and I like the points you talk about with the Tigers, and I'm going to get into that. Just one thing I want to bring up, though, is there is one thing about Cespedes that I even have to admit is a huge down, right? Is a huge negative, and that is pitchers know how to pitch this guy. Okay, you saw Madison Bumgarner in the wild card game, and maybe it's just because he's Madison Bumgarner, but I think Cespedes' weakness is up and high.
Yeah,
high
it's
and
just
in.
It's just you need to get the proper speed on your fastball or enough movement.
If that thing goes up, he's not going to hit it. I mean, we watched it. Okay?
Yeah, and then he gets bitter, and then he just sucks for the rest of the game because it gets stuck in his head, and then everyone knows that's his biggest weakness.
Yeah, I mean, he's chasing balls that are high. Right? That's his problem. That's his weakness. That's how pitchers pitched him. So he never showed up in the postseason, really. He had like one home run like in 2015 in the postseason. I don't think he really showed up.
No.
And he obviously didn't show up in the one game in the playoffs the Mets did play. However, and this is why it's like 50-50. It's like there's like a little bit of hope. It's just whenever it's an in-season, somehow this guy figures out how to hit 280 and like 40 home runs. It happens. This guy, he batted 280 on the Mets.
Well, no, it's a flaw, though. He never was this way before the Mets. That's why it was kind of just a shocker. And especially going to the National League where it's never known, and in an extreme pitcher's park like the Mets,
I mean,
I just don't understand it. I mean, if you look at his numbers beforehand, he never topped 30 home runs.
But now he's doing it in New York, and he's just...
And he had those great lineups. Even like when he was in Boston, he had these lineups that could protect him, and in Detroit, and then like the only place that he didn't have that's the Athletics, who first signed him. So it's just like it's a shock. Like I don't know. It's you gotta tame reality because like I mean he has shown that he can do it even last year when he was injury prone and injury marred.
I mean the people. This is what I don't like about the media right now. They said on Mets blog. The guy is fragile. The guy's fragile. Hang on a minute. Didn't the guy play with an injured quad for the whole freaking season? You want to say he's fragile? Sit the fuck down, man. What the hell? The guy's tough as nails. Okay? You want to go out there with a banged up quad and play baseball every day? 162 games? I mean, he didn't play 162 games. You want to play most of the time with a freaking banged up quad? I mean, come on. That's tough. And you know what? even though he might be self-motivated, which I get it, and he probably is, no lie, right? I didn't like how he wasn't with the team during the wild card thing. I didn't like that. That rubbed me the wrong way. But you know what? This guy definitely works hard, and he definitely put a lot of work into the season. Like I'm quoting Matthew Cerrone, right? The guy's an idiot. He spells all the stuff wrong. He spells so many. I can't read an article without a spelling mistake. I mean, talk about journalistic integrity over here.
Yeah,
I mean,
once the guy sold out to SNY, he really sold out on his career.
This guy is just ridiculous, right? This guy's a clown in himself, right? This guy has sometimes some of the most obscene opinions. But I'm sorry, that got me heated. I remembered it just now. Fragile, quote unquote fragile. Look it up in the article. And let me tell you something. Fragile though? I mean, it's not like he freaking twisted his arm and now he's out for the season. The guy played with a banged up quad after he jumped into the stands for a ball. If that guy doesn't show dedication to a team, I don't know what is, because that has got that not only is that guts, but that's some strength right there. Fragile my ass.
Well, I mean, there's also like the problems where it's like when he's supposed to be injured, he's supposed to be nursing a quad or like his oblique, and he goes out and plays golf.
And there's the other side of the coin, like I said. But, listen, and I wanted to mention that, but you mentioned something interesting, Miguel Cabrera. And there was actually an article on SNY talking about how the Mets could do something. And here's something the Mets have not done, and that's start trading some pitchers. That would have to take some pitchers, no?
No. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if they want to get younger, I could see something that would be a Juan Lagares type of trade. You trade Juan Lagares to patrol center field for them because they've been doing a platoon recently. You can do him. Then maybe you can trade Steve who out of Matz, Wheeler, or maybe even one of these new guys, Gazelman or Lugo, because those guys proved that they can actually be proven commodities to be used.
I've been saying to do it, right? I think we need to do it. I think it's a no-brainer to trade some of these pitchers, right? Not all of them, but some of these guys. Like I said before, if I was the GM of the Mets would have won the World Series because I had the Mets back in 2014 trading Matt Harvey for Mookie Betts. And I know he's whatever for his lineup, but if it would have happened, all right, if I could have got that deal done, I would have been getting praised because look at the year he just had. I'm just saying in 2014, I know I'm sounding like a hipster, I was all over Mets blog saying Matt Harvey for Mookie Betts, do it. And no one listens to me. Hey, Sandy, I'm a phone call away. I was saying that since 2014, and now I look 2 years later. I mean, I want some credit. I mean, this guy is now producing. He's not playing right now, obviously, because bye-bye Boston. But, I mean, seriously. I mean, for frick's sake, I'm a phone call away. But they got to start maybe trading one or two guys.
Oh, because they can't do anything because since it's such a weak free agent market, the only thing you can do is go external. Even then, you don't have that many places where you can put these players. So, I mean, realistically, you can only look at a first baseman, and the ones in the game, they're going to cost a good amount, and you're going to need to give up some pitching for that. You can't just be giving up some spare parts.
Could I give you a conspiracy theory right now? This is not going to happen. Could I just throw out the most ridiculous something trade ever?
Sure.
So the Marlins have lost Jose Fernandez. They need some pitching, right? All right, we get something done for Giancarlo. All right? You know what? Let's get something done for Giancarlo.
Oh, dear God.
How about it? I
actually don't want that, to be honest, because that contract is so big.
I know.
And when you're looking at a freaking stingy-ass team like the Mets and Wilpon, oh, my God, no.
I'm just saying right now.
But if we could, in the dream world. In the dream world, I would have him, and we try to shift him over to first base, get Yasiel Puig to be in center field. Maybe we could get Tulowitzki to go to, freaking start shortstop.
Remember how he was the number one? I mean, listen. He was the number one named on Mets blog for 2 years. It was Tulowitzki. In 2014, 2013, all you would hear is Tulowitzki. By the way, I would have done it. Right?
I mean, he had an off year this year with it, and he's also been very injury prone. But even then, still, when he was out there, the guy fucking mashed back in the past.
Listen,
this year, though, no.
I mean, how old is the guy now?
I don't know. I think he's about 30, maybe 31, 32, somewhere around there. But even then, the guy's still got range.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, he could still play. If he's in the field, he could play. And, listen, I'm just saying, this offseason, if there's no Cespedes, which I don't think there's a chance in snowball hell there's Cespedes, because, like I said before, Mets don't want to get into a bidding war. how could a guy like Jason Hayward get that much money and Cespedes not? I just don't see it.
Well, no, it's age. Jason Hayward was 24 at the time, so when his contract ends up right now, he'll be Cespedes' age.
Oh, okay.
So the thing is, Cespedes, like at 32, everyone knows that a power hitter who has to play in the outfield and doesn't have rest days or even at bats during the DH, they age aggressively when it starts hitting 32, 33.
Yeah.
And then it just snowballs into an effect at 35, 36. This guy is garbage. Like, throw him in the trash bin. He's over with his career.
Yeah. You know what? You make up a good point. I completely forgot the age. I thought they were the same age for some reason.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
I mean, because Hayward's been around for a while. That's why.
why
Because when
I
he was with
thought,
because when he was on the Braves, when he came up,
I thought he was
he was
old.
20 years old when he had that
Yeah.
like amazing rookie year. Then everyone's like, "Oh my God, this guy's got everything. He's going to turn to the next like Lou Gehrig."
Why do
and then he goes over to the Cardinals, and then like everyone's like, "Ah, it's a little slow year, but he still has it because he's so young." And then he goes to the Cubs. Everyone's like, hey, he doesn't have it. Like,
It's funny because I just always pair him with Upton. And it's because they were on the Braves, right? They were both on the Braves.
yeah, you had BJ Upton over there for a little bit.
I don't know why I pair those two together. Maybe because they were both like sort of high-end picks at one point, and they both haven't panned out. I know his brother. Wasn't Justin Upton like a really high pick?
No, Justin Upton, I'm pretty sure was like number 1 overall, who was supposed to be like him. Like, whereas like
But
a young
never
guy.
happened, right? And them two just never turned out. Wait, Upton was never on the Braves, though, right, Justin?
No, they played together in
San Diego.
San Diego, right?
Yeah.
No, was it San Diego? Yeah.
It was San Diego, yep. They were on the same team. And then
Well, no, it's Justin Upton was actually on the Braves.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about
yeah,
that.
that's
I'm
why I could
sorry.
have sworn he was on the
2013,
Braves. I'm like, was he on
2014,
the
I
Braves?
completely forgot about
What
that.
year? What year?
2013, 2014. I completely
Yeah,
forgot
so
about
that's
that.
why I always think of them
Holy
together
crap.
because they're
I just how did I
they're
forget that?
both like high-rated. They were high-rated prospects, first-round draft picks, and they both haven't panned out. So
Well,
that just
because when he was in
shows-
Arizona, the guy was hitting like 300. He was close to like getting 30 home runs, 30 steals. It was kind of like a Matt Kemp type, you know?
Yeah. And listen, hey, the Braves have Matt Kemp. Speaking about Matt Kemp. So, listen, there's a lot of stuff, but if the Mets aren't going to sign anyone, they gotta start. They gotta hit the trade. They gotta hit that trade. You know, whether it's that Martinez guy you were talking about, not as Drupal.
I mean, JD Martinez.
But here's the thing. What about Cabrera? I mean,
Miggy?
Isn't his contract ridiculous?
His contract is quite large, but I mean,
I'm down. Believe me, I'm down. I don't know if the Wilpons are down. I'm down for anything, right? Turned down for what?
Well, the thing is, Miguel Cabrera is 33 years old. It's not like we're looking at a 36-year-old veteran who's about to go into the twilight.
All right?
But I mean, oh man, his contract, he's expected to make $26 million, 28, which is actually Cespedes type numbers.
Yeah.
And in a trade, you can offset some of that money.
Yeah.
Where if you just straight out buy up Yoenis Cespedes, you got to pay all that.
Oh, here's the thing, right? I mean, did he have a good year? I don't watch the Tigers. What did he have?
No, he had a good year. I mean, like last year
okay.
he had like 27 home runs. This year he had 36 home runs.
Okay.
Like I think like
All
close to
right.
100 RBIs. Like it was not
Future
bad.
Met.
38 home runs, 31 doubles, 108 RBIs, and 316 batting average.
Someone get that Photoshop of Miguel Cabrera. Whenever they talk about a player, they always have some guy on Photoshop put them in a Mets uniform.
Oh yeah,
be
where it's like
future
just
Met.
put the
Yeah,
jersey
like
right on
future
him.
Met. And someone get going on that because I like that. I like that a lot. And listen, then you can put Conforto in the outfield. Listen, would you think Juan Lagares still has some stuff in him? I mean, that guy I think is in limbo because he had a great year, sort of. Then he was out, like tore his thumb, didn't play for a
thumb
while.
ligament's pretty big, especially for a batter. Because and he lost his range because he also like had a torn like Tommy John ligament, his UCL.
But this year he sort of had a comeback year. But I don't see this. This guy, for me, he mashes lefties, right? And this guy mashes lefties. You know what I got to say right here? I got to say, if the Mets don't get Cespedes, you're going to have a center field platoon. He's got to be the left-handed bat platoon. Because if he could still mash lefties like he does, because he's always had problem with righties. If he would be able to hit righties, he would have started center field, but he just can't.
I mean, I would like to trade him like to the.
He has a deal
I would love
with
to.
the Mets,
I would
too.
love. Oh, he's got a deal to 2020 actually with the Mets.
pretty ridiculous.
So I mean, I would love this. I mean, I liked him at the time. He had the defensive range, But you know what? Like, we can get someone like a Yasiel Puig for like chump change, I'm pretty sure, for the Dodgers, who would be a perfect fit.
Well,
and then if we could trade Lagares
Cuban
and a couple of pitchers, and a Cuban guy. If we get him in the clubhouse and we get freaking Miguel Cabrera, a Venezuelan in there, like, we're talking about a fiesta going on.
Let me tell you, we already got a little bit of we had like a little fiesta this year. We had Drupal Cabrera, we had like Flores, we had Reyes, we had Cespedes. I mean, these guys were all like really, especially Cabrera and Reyes. Yo, like I follow them both on Instagram. They're always hanging out. They're still hanging out. So, hey, at least you should see them. I want to go to their parties and stuff.
Yeah.
They got some cool stuff going on. But, listen, they had some good chemistry. I'm telling you, I like his dribble, dude. I love that guy.
Resurgent year for him.
I love how people thought he was dead. And for me, I remember the day they signed him, and I go, really? He's like Wilmer Flores, a little bit better than Wilmer Flores?
That's a perfect comp.
But then he turned out to be like 1,000,000 times better than Wilmer Flores. I mean, respect to this guy. Now, I love how the scouts said he was done. And
he also injured himself a great amount this year and still pushed through.
I mean, what a great guy, that guy. That guy's a player. I mean, I know he was in Tampa Bay. I remember watching him in Tampa Bay because whenever the Mets sign a player, I look at their highlights. Maybe to see what we're getting. I like to look at their swing. I'm one of those guys. I don't
Just
know.
look at the optimism of it all.
I go like I literally typed in Alejandro Diaz highlights trying to find something, and it was some Baltimore Orioles stuff from like 2015.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
it. He was on the Red Sox, the Orioles, the Blue Jays. He was the Giants. He was all over the place.
It's the White Sox. Yeah, I remember.
Well, that was when he had his best years. But listen. We don't know what's going to happen. World Series has not ended. But once it ends, once it starts going, the qualifying offer discussions, I'm so excited for those because the qualifying offer is like $17 million or something like that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, the 17.8. No one's going to be doing that.
It used to be there used to be a time where like signing it was.
Last year was the first time ever that actually someone accepted a qualifying offer. Colby Rasmus and then Matt Wieters.
And we only got like 34 seconds. I'm just prepping you, but I'm just saying, listen, we should have talked about the qualifying offers are just ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's absurd. I mean, they're going to be talking about that again, the MLBPA Players Association new agreement.
I just think it's absurd. That money they're getting, I'm sorry, that's just ridiculous.
Before we sign off, though, I want to give a prediction. I want to get your prediction, and I'm going to give you mine. I'm going to say Cubs in 6 for this World Series.
In 6.
In 6? All right. Let's see.
All right. Well, that's it for the show. Hope you enjoyed listening. And
see you next week, guys.
You could hear the end of these commercials.
All I want is world peace and awesome skin.
Good skincare is essential to aging gracefully. So join beauty consultant Elizabeth Daria and learn how to treat and protect your skin. It's on Saturday, November 12th at 2 p.m. in the Westbury Memorial Public Library. To register, call 516-333-0176 or visit westburylibrary.org. The community calendar is a public service from your friends at 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.
This is my WCWP, Brookville.
Listen.
LIU Post Campus Radio, 89.7 FM and mywcwp.org.